We live as lifelong recovering perfectionists. You have some kind of insecurity about that lack of knowledge. Therefore, we accept that whatever we produce is not going to be perfect. The people who are at the top tell us all the time that there is no top. We should be more forthcoming when it comes to the limitations that we have faced as part of the process. There's room for imperfection. It's not entirely tragic. We have certain misconceptions about academia that can cause a lot of distress when we don't understand them. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 things that I find funny about academia that make no sense at first, but maybe they will make sense when you think about them more carefully. The first thing that's funny about academia is that we spend so much time trying to generate new knowledge. And at the end of the process, yes, we do generate new knowledge, but we also come out with a realization of how limited our knowledge is. So this creates the perfect breeding ground for imposter syndrome, because you are left with that feeling that you have some kind of insecurity about that lack of knowledge, even though at the same time you have generated knowledge that is part of a very involved process that is going to be groundbreaking and sometimes even make a huge difference within a particular field or a particular aspect of life. At the end of the day, I think when you think about this dynamic that we have going on in academia, that sense of being aware that we are not all-knowing, that we potentially will never be all-knowing, is also what keeps us grounded. I think it's necessary for the continuous involved effort in improving on things that we already know, in challenging the assumptions that have been established for a long time, and in reaching yet newer heights in terms of particular aspects of knowledge that we are preoccupied with. So yes, imposter syndrome, I think that's a very, very common thing associated with academia. And it can be something that we can channel in a healthy way in our pursuit for new knowledge. Another funny thing about academia is that inherently it is a system that recognizes imperfection. So it's almost standard that in any paper that you will write, you will be expected to present the limitations yourself. So you say these are the limitations of the study. That might mean that we have to be careful about how we use or interpret these results in the future, or this is the additional work that we need to do in order to be sure of the validity of the knowledge that has been generated. So there is an awareness within academia that there are limits to processes of knowledge generation, and therefore we accept that whatever we produce is not going to be perfect. But interestingly, this seems to be a field that attracts a lot of perfectionists. These are people who want to make sure that they get things perfect and they get them right, and that they are going to be beyond reproach. So it can create some kinds of problems, usually when we have to accept the trade-offs that we are making in a particular process. And I suppose in a way, this perfectionism is necessary because of the importance of the issues that we grapple with, because of the implications that they can have on societies and people's lives. We have to make sure that the processes are done with the most care. So perfectionists are needed in this type of field, but I suppose we live as lifelong recovering perfectionists because with each manuscript that we generate, with each research project that we are going to be involved in, we have to come to terms with the fact that we are not going to make it perfect. And because academia actually gives us this room for imperfection, I think we should take comfort in that. And I think we should be more forthcoming when it comes to the limitations that we have faced as part of the process and how those processes can be improved in future work. So it's not entirely tragic after all. Finally, academia is a race to the top. We're all out here trying to make it to full professor or emeritus professor, but the people who are at the top tell us all the time that there is no top. So they continue to be preoccupied with the problems that they started working on sometimes decades ago, more than half a century in some instances. So at the end of the day, even though we are striving for that level of achievement, there's also an understanding, which I think is shared, that we can never really reach a pinnacle of knowledge. So the knowledge model in itself is not one that is additive or incremental. We cannot say we have now reached the maximum level of knowledge for a particular field. But what it is actually is a system whereby the old makes way for the new. So if we have an improvement in the methods that we are using, or if we will stumble upon a perspective that turns all assumptions on their head, that means that we have to retire what has been taken as knowledge, as fact for a long time, and then it makes way to the new knowledge. So as long as humans are going to exist, it's likely that we are always going to be on a consistent quest for knowledge. We only understand a tiny fraction of how the world works. For example, we understand less than 20% of the ocean. It's recently been discovered that, for example, it's possible that oxygen is being generated in the depths of the sea where the sun doesn't shine. And what is more, the ocean floor is actually not the ocean floor. So we have talked about the ocean floor as though it were real for a long time. We have talked about the ozone layer and oxygen as though it was something that was unique to the land. And now all this turns everything we know on its head, and we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to rediscover new knowledge, and we probably need a new term for seafloor. So at the end of the day, I think even though the academic undertaking does come with a lot of pressure, it also does come with a bit of generosity in terms of understanding of the human limits in the pursuit of knowledge. And once we understand this, we can be kinder to ourselves and we can be more authentic in terms of our approaches to knowledge and what constitutes knowledge and how much value we claim the knowledge we have generated is worth. And this should make room for more positive impacts in the world. I'm Dr. Noni G. Extra. Follow me to find the joy in academic writing and discover your real potential. Happy writing.